y'all. Welcome back to For the Fans, where tonight we are very excited to talk about the wild premiere episode of Survivor 47. And tonight it is me and Robbie. Robbie, how you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, and honestly, I am still trying to figure out what it is we just watched in that first episode. I can't remember seeing such a meltdown, and I'm not saying who or what because it's nice to go in somewhat chronological, but that was extremely entertaining. That honestly, it's a great first episode, and
I
let's
mean,
get started.
yeah, we're going to get into our 4 points that we want to hit on for the premiere episode, but we've not seen a meltdown like that since Brandon Donlin melted down like that
That's
just
exactly
not
what I
that
was
long
thinking.
ago. But yeah, it was a sight to behold. It was entertaining, but I think as a whole, like it was a good episode. I was entertained.
Yeah, honestly, it was funny. At times, I felt like commercials were getting interrupted by the show. There were, I don't know if it's just season premiere type things, but I think the content made up for it. And no, it was fantastic. And I think the cast is strong. I think we got a lot of great confessionals. There's a lot of people who are well spoken when they get in front of the camera, and gamers right off the bat, right? First couple of days, and they're already people trying to find their ride or die and making alliances. So it
Yeah,
was great.
and I mean, that maybe that speaks to the new era, but they literally hit the beach running. Like no downtime. We are ready to day one find my people. I mean, even like minute one, it seemed like okay, I'm ready to get myself into a 4, and that's the majority, and that'll be good. And if you're someone that's a little more slow rolling, you could easily get left behind.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people preseason that were saying, they're going to come in hard. They're not here to make friends or whatnot. And honestly, so far they've delivered. They've
Yeah,
delivered, and that's great. It's a lot of times you hear the big talk and then they all hide, right? Oh, it's the first
yeah,
3 weeks. I'm just going to sit quiet. The last 5 days, I'll work hard. But
yeah.
yeah, no, it was nice. They got started right off the bat.
All right. So for tonight, we're going to go through our 4 kind of highlights from the episode. And then at the end, because this is the premiere episode, we'll just kind of give our first impressions on everyone. We don't necessarily have to go down the list, but we can talk about the standouts to us because not all of them are necessarily going to be talked about that much in our 4 main points from the episode. So jumping in, point 1 that we want to talk about, Sweat versus Savvy No More. So what did you think about this whole new setup that we got tonight, Robbie? Like the last 6 seasons, we have gotten the same thing. Like there's a challenge right there on the beach, and they see it all. Very simple, and we're going to one tribe is going to earn it, and then the rest you have to earn it through sweat and savvy.
Yeah, honestly, I was getting used to Sweat and Savvy and almost started feeling like just part of the,
New era.
just the format of the show now, right? Just the norm. But it was getting old, and I'm somebody who completely supports the older school version of the game where the harder it is, the better.
Yeah.
And if you have to win to get your flint, if you have to win to get a machete, if you have to do something and succeed, it can't just be, hey, all we have to do is move buckets of water for 5 hours and we're good. No, you have to beat someone else at doing something. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the new format, and it puts a lot more drama in it when you replace it with what they did. So it gets a lot of lying in and trust when you come back and you don't have what you were supposed to come back with. You better
Yeah.
be good at telling the truth and having people believe you. So
Yeah. I obviously, like, there are some aspects of old school Survivor that I'm like, okay, I'm a purist here. Like, I want to have these things. Like, we don't need all of this new stuff. And that has probably been my most consistent gripe of the new era is like, what are all of these new things? Like, give me back my old Survivor. But with that said, some of the things, like if they're going to be staples now, like, okay, you have to earn your supplies. Like that is just a given. That is new era Survivor. We're not going back. I have to accept it. It's hard, but I'm going to accept it. But I do want them to keep it fresh of like, okay, this year it's going to be sweat versus savvy. This year, like this 1v1 type of situation. And I'm like, okay, if we're going to do it and it's something that's a little bit different, I like that because
honestly, even if they only did it a little bit different, just a
Yeah.
little bit different, because then what happens is when next season, the season after that, when people are going out there and two people go off in a boat, and just to be clear, we are talking about Asia and TK going off, each of them the path. We all just watched that.
Yeah. We'll get into the specifics in a second.
Yeah, but you know what? When they mix it up a little bit and the format's different, then it adds a little bit more paranoia. And I guess that's probably the theme of this episode is paranoia. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, and that's exactly it too. Like I think as long as it's something where they're not like, yeah, okay, this is what happens every time. So specifically, we see the Yellow Tribe win the, chat mat challenge. Maybe that's what we should call it. I was a bit shocked because honestly, I was like, this Yellow Tribe is such a disaster. They're never going to win anything.
Yeah, but they crushed the puzzle.
Yeah, they did so good.
They crushed the puzzle at the end, and that was the big tiebreaker right there. And I don't know if it's because they were all putting the buff over their eyes so they didn't get mud in their face when they were going through the crawl, the mud crawl, or the net crawl, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they were slow getting back. Actually, they were almost embarrassingly slow getting back.
Last by a long shot.
And then they pulled it out at the end, which in the end, it doesn't matter, I guess, how much you win by. They won.
Right. So with them winning, they get their pot and machete. They're heading back to the beach. Gata is off to a good start. But we see where Jeff's like, okay, blindly, you are going to have to choose somebody from the two losing tribes. You each have to send a representative. That's your information. Would you, Robbie, out on the beach of Fiji, be like, yeah, I'll do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Now, would I recommend somebody do that? No. Do I think people should do that? Absolutely not. Would I do it? Yes. Is that counterintuitive or whatever you call it?
Walk me through it.
I want to experience every aspect as long as I'm out there, and I would. All I have to see is the first letter of beware advantage, and I'm picking it up and opening it. You know what I mean? I don't care. I'm going to go full tilt, and sometimes it works out and sometimes that doesn't. But you see that with Asia, right? Just, I want to go. Do you want to go? Do you want to go? Do you want to go? And I want to go. And that was one of those moments after the Yellow Tribe won. I was kind of, eating a little bit of my words because I just said in our preseason assessment, the Yellow Tribe was going to get rolled over this season. And I didn't see them winning anything early. First challenge, they win. But I was right about Asia stepping up and looking for that TV moment, right? When she's like, listen, this is me. I have a chance. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And so on the Tuku, which is the Blue Tribe, we see them, we're going to do rock, paper, scissors, but you can only choose rock or scissors, and the odd person out is going to be the one that goes. And our boy TK is like, bet I'm going to be the odd one out because I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to choose paper.
Exactly.
I had that moment where I was like, did he do that on purpose?
No. There's no way. There's no way. I think he was just thinking rock, paper, scissors. I don't even think most people, when they play odd man out or odd one out, it's literally called odds and evens. You have three people. You can either put up one finger or two. Whoever's the odd one out, you're out or you're going or whatever. No one does rock, paper, scissors, but it's only rock or scissors, and it's odd. So he was probably thinking adrenaline.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I might go. What am I doing? Rock, paper, scissors, paper.
Yeah.
And then he gets to go and he's like, hey, paper wins.
Look, at the end of it all, I want to know if he made that conscious decision of like, I'm going to make sure I'm the odd one out because I'm not playing their game. I'm playing my own game.
Yeah.
Because TK was one of those that was like, I want it all. He is one that wanted the full experience of like, I'm going to hit the ground running. Caleb, he did not take enough risks in his season. I'm going to take all the risks. I want all the advantages. I want all the journeys. That was TK's persona from the beginning. So I was like, okay, this tracks.
Yeah, honestly, I'm hoping it's not. I read way too much into every little detail in these shows. A lot of it's just humans being humans, and random stuff happens when you get a bunch of random humans together. But I'm really hoping that this is a little bit of foreshadowing with TK's ability in the pressure to remember that fine detail when they're saying, okay, you got to play the idol on this person, but they're going to steal a vote on that person.
You vote on this person.
And then he's going to get up there and in his head, he knows he's doing the right thing and just writes the wrong name or uses it on the wrong person. And
Yeah.
his whole alliance just being like,
What are you doing?
what? And honestly, it'll be funny if it works out the same way, but it just flukes it and he wins. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, no, really entertaining start.
Yeah. Okay. So Asia, TK, they end up being the representatives from their tribes. They go on this, new task. I don't even know what to call it now. They go on the new earn your supplies task, and they get there and they say, "Hey, only one of you is going to win. You're going to both take different paths. You're going to collect your keys, and then at the end, it is basically going to be a race for the final key. Whoever gets it is going to win their tribe supplies." What did you think about this new game as a whole?
I like the format of the game. It is simple, but it's competitive.
Yeah.
And they make you go up a hill, which is difficult when you're exhausted after just doing a challenge and all that good stuff. And then they make you race out into the ocean and find, a key lost there. And this reminds me though, if you watch a lot of podcasts or interviews with past players, a common theme that sneaks out sometimes when they're talking about production is watch the camera people, watch where they're looking.
Yeah.
And every image that was on the picture, because the contestants or the castaways, they would get a board that had a photo on it, and that was their clue. And it was basically find this outcrop of rocks
Find this.
or tree, find this image in reality, and here's X marks the spot on the picture. And the camera perfectly lined that up every time.
Yeah.
And if they would just look at where the camera guy is staring, you're like, okay, so I should just stand and face the camera, see where he's looking, and then do a 180.
Line myself up with where
Now,
the cameraman is.
again, this is Monday morning quarterbacking. People who are out there living a dream with adrenaline rushing through their veins.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But man, repeated over and over through this entire challenge, they were looking right at it. Now, I'm really curious in the background, and maybe we'll find out from from a viewer or a guest in the future here are there like 3 or 4 camera people out there that are throwing you off, or is it like just 1 or 2 and a bunch of other production and stuff? You know what I mean? Like, because maybe saying follow the camera doesn't work when there's 3 different cameras on different angles, right?
Which one do I look at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's fun. I thought it was a fun little task for them to have to do. They're grabbing the keys up. Asia seems to kind of get this early lead over TK, but then all of a sudden she's like, I can't find the path. And I looked at my husband and I was like, girl, just walk downhill. I mean, it doesn't matter. That was my initial thought, just like TK. What are you doing? Like, just get down the mountain.
Yeah.
The beach is down. Just go down.
Water goes down. And I don't disagree at all. And we mentioned this in the cast assessment, the full tilt test. When you look at Asia and you look at TK and you say, okay, who's going to pass the full tilt test? TK 100%. And then he gets tested on it and he says, fuck this. I am going straight down this mountain or this hill. I am going through.
A new path.
I will leave production behind. I am making it to the water first, and basically just closes his eyes and runs straight through the trees and gets down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. That's what digging deep is. And he did it.
Yeah, I was like, pray for this cameraman because he is going off-road too. That may not have been on his bingo card of like, oh shit, here I go, but I got to follow him. I don't have any choice.
Yeah, I often wonder if they have to edit a lot of audio out from the crew of this guy just, grumbling or this person, the camera operator just being like, Jesus, trying to get through all this shit, right? Or laughing at how hilarious it is that a castaway is just beelining it right through the freaking woods.
Yeah, literally. It's so crazy. So we see TK make it down to the beach, but then he's just kind of waiting out there because the buoy is not really completely visible above water. And so he's kind of waiting. We see Asia catch up a little bit and she's like, did you find it? And TK's like, yeah, no. Oh, there it is. And Asia is like, boy, I'm getting in on that action. And I love that. And I think that is probably, maybe you don't have it with different personality types, but we know Asia is like a former basketball player. She's competitive. TK is a former football player. And so they were like, we're fixing to go at it. And I loved it from both of them.
Oh,
But then
you have to give
also,
credit to
like,
Asia for sure. Like diving in on that and grabbing at it.
yeah, because you know, your game can literally be on the line with this. But then I couldn't help but think of ramifications. Like, does that earn a little bit of respect from TK that Asia try to yank it from him? Or, come a merge or a journey or a swap, who knows? Is TK like, girl, you are too much. I am not ready for this.
I- and I can't disagree with any of that. I think you have to. I think TK is a competitor, and he'll respect competitors, and I think he'll want to work with people who are equally as competitive. And when you see somebody trying to pull it out of your arms, I think that checks the box of being
Yeah.
competitive. Now, not running down the hill, I guess it's a minus, and I think she's trying to make up for it in that moment, and I think she did. I think she saved her character in this episode by doing that little decision to be like, screw this, I'm gonna rip this out of your hands and take it. But I got a question for you, because the way I interpreted that too, and I haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet because we just watched it live and now we're right here. But when I watched TK he pulled up the buoy.
Mhm.
Right? But I think she was actually grabbing the key. There's like a
Yeah, I think
there's a
so.
purple handle that I thought the key was attached to. Now I got to rewatch it. Maybe I'm wrong, but they cut away pretty damn quick to just TK walking away with everything. Like she basically grabbed it and then it was edit and he was walking off by himself.
Yeah.
I'm really curious if they're out in the middle of the ocean, they start going at it. If production's like, pause, it's a clear rule. He touched it first. It's his. And
Yeah.
then Asia's like, okay, and then they separate and then, okay, continue. I would like to see more of it. I almost want a behind the scenes cut of that
Or even if
interaction.
it's a thing of, Asia got there and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna snatch it from him," but then at
Yeah.
the last second was kind of like, "Ooh, is this smart of me to snatch it from him?" Like,
Yeah. But I think she grabbed the key first. Like, I
yeah,
think she grabbed the key first and he grabbed the buoy that it was attached to. And now we're splitting hairs here, but this is a show for $1 million. So, like, it's worth splitting hairs over, honestly.
yeah. So TK is victorious. He gets to, be the big man at camp and take it back to his tribe. His tribe is loving it. As I think it was Annika points out, like everybody loves TK. I mean, he is the hero. He
Exactly.
comes back, all of the guys flock to him. TK is the big man on campus.
Yeah. Now, when TK gets back, they ask him what happened, and he tells the honest truth, which, when you're the winner, is a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
But do you think there was a missed opportunity there? Because when he gets back, he said there was two paths, and each of us got to choose, and only one of us got to win.
Mhm.
Where he easily could have said, I had the choice between a personal advantage or the tribe stuff. I'm not sure what Asia did. I picked the tribe stuff because I want to eat. Right?
Yeah.
Could have just said that. Not too much detail. And then Asia's tribe would have been like, hey, what happened?
Yeah.
And
Asia
now
tells
now
him,
it's out there that she didn't bring back the stuff. Well, like, you could easily, if you don't trust Asia and you thought maybe she was too competitive or whatever. So I kind of feel like he was trying to build a relationship with her by not burning her.
I almost feel like though that's something that would work better, like in Australian Survivor, where you do see like the cross tribal communications a lot at challenges. I think in an Australian Survivor season, yes, you do that and you throw that person under the bus because somebody is probably going to fact check and be like, hey, did Asia bring back y'all's supplies or not? And then when they're like, no, and they're like, oop.
Yeah, and it can be incredibly simple. Like, did Asia grab the equipment, or did she risk it?
For the advantage.
And just say that, did she risk it?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas her story has nothing to do with risk. It's a 1 versus 1.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like I said, I read way too much into this stuff, but I love it, and that's why I do
Well,
it.
and
But
it's always fun to think about, ooh, what could I have done in that situation?
and for us, you think, okay, he only had 10 seconds because he was on the island, then he's at his tribe. No,
Yeah,
and
and
like a
then
20
we had
minute
a whole
boat
boat ride
ride.
back.
You know what I mean? And the whole cruise packing up, like, they're probably out there for a half hour after he's done finding the key before he actually gets back. There's time to think,
Think about
okay,
things. Yeah.
right? And yeah, I'm surprised, but how do you think Asia handled? Do you think they believed her when she got back?
Yeah, so it was interesting because typically the person gets back and they don't have anything, and we get to see all of the tribal reactions of like, I believe her, I don't believe her. Um, Asia does have this, and we see it later, but we can just talk about it here. Asia does have this kind of built-in goodness on her tribe in that Teeny recognizes her as an RHAP podcaster and is like, I know who you are. Like, I'm not going to out your secret. And Asia kind of had someone at the beach looking out for her before she got there. And then I think when she comes in and she tells this, even if people in the moment didn't believe her, I think it was not shown to us for a reason.
Yeah, that's fair. One thing we did see, I'm not sure if it's at this moment or if it was a few minutes earlier in the episode, but it was Teeny talking about Asia, saying that she's a big fan and saying, you know what, I watch her podcast and she finds details that even I don't find. Like she notices things that even I don't notice. And like that's such a cocky thing to say. Like she finds things that even I don't see. Like I see everything.
Calm down.
And anyways, I liked and laughed at the same time at someone who's so
and
confident.
And I did also notice Teeny does bring up, I can't remember who it was that was talking to her. It might have been Sierra. Anyways, and they were like, hey, I feel good about Rome and I feel good about, I need to have the tribes listed in front of me now. But they mentioned Rome specifically and then wanting to kind of work with Teeny and one other person. And Teeny is like, well, I want to make sure that we give Asia a chance. And I was like, with us knowing that Teeny recognizes Asia, you're like, oh man, boy, Asia is literally having someone do the work for her. But
that answers the question. Would that knowledge be a benefit or a detriment? It's already benefiting.
Well, yes and no, because the other person that recognizes Asia is baby Andy, who we are definitely going to get into. And as is clearly stated, I think Andy would be a detriment. But luckily, Asia is with Teeny because could you imagine a world? And we'll talk about it.
And baby Andy is making a lot more sense now for a name.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything else to say about our new task that we got here tonight?
No, honestly, I think it was entertaining. I think it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, and I thought it was a very, very nice twist up from Sweat versus Savvy.
Yeah, if I had to split hairs on it, sorry to interrupt you there. If I had to split hairs, it was very basic. It was very basic, but I enjoyed the simplicity of me versus you. I could see them making it more complicated next time, maybe a little more physically demanding, but I enjoyed the me versus you aspect, I guess, the concept.
I mean, I think for me, like I was kind of over the sweat task of this, like they already don't get supplies, like they don't have food. I don't need to see them like bust their asses for like 6 or 7 several hours, to get this task done and just deplete them from the get-go. All right, moving on. Beware advantages galore. So definitely a big focus of the episode tonight was we got to see the beware advantages found on 2 of the tribes. The yellow Gata tribe, they had a lot of other stuff going on. They were not concerned with this beware advantage. But we saw the Lavo, which is the red tribe, and the Tuku blue tribe both find their beware advantages. So Gabe from the Taku tribe finds his, and Rome finds his for the Lavo tribe. So let's talk about Gabe first, because they were both highly entertaining.
Yeah, honestly, I think Gabe, he traveled the full gamut of how to play it flawlessly and horribly. I think like right off the bat, you're looking for driftwood. Now, I mean, while you're grabbing the biggest tree you can find in the middle of the woods for firewood, I don't know. Seems like a questionable choice of what wood to bring back. But him and TK are trying to pull this giant log out of the woods, and he sees a little sheet of paper there, a little fold up parchment, and palms it. Finds some excuse as to why they shouldn't bring the log back. TK turns around for a couple minutes and he grabs it and hides it perfectly. I think that I like that. Keeping it to yourself, I like that. Do you think he should have shared it right off the bat?
No, I am such a big fan of not telling people your shit. Like,
yes.
Okay. Kevin would probably love to hear me say this, but he's not here, so he doesn't get to hear it. I feel like the new era does make it so there are times where you unfortunately do kind of have to bring someone in on it, but
Mm.
I am at my core a don't tell people shit.
It burns you more than it helps you.
Right.
Unless you're playing some next level, like, 3D chess, where telling someone and they're gonna go tell someone else, and that keeps you like, unless
Yeah.
you're next level, spreading
Yeah.
information, telling
Um,
someone just to grab trust this early is more detrimental, I think, than it is
yeah, and especially like when
beneficial.
you're literally just getting to know people. Okay,
Yeah.
but Robbie, here's what I do not understand. Why does everyone feel like they have to immediately open it? Immediately.
Uh,
I'm like,
yeah.
take the time whenever it's natural of like, hey y'all, I need to take, an ocean dump over here and you're out floating in the water and there is nobody around. You can read it, you have no worries. Or wait till you have a confessional.
Yeah.
Why? Why do they feel compelled that they have to open it at that exact moment in time?
I think it's the delusion when you're out there that, listen, I've already been out here for 5 minutes. It's only going to take me 30 seconds to open this thing. But
Yeah.
what you forget is, once you open it, now you're reading it in front of the camera, and you're doing what it says, and you're reacting to what you read. And like, you're taking up minutes and minutes and minutes. Whereas if you really think about it, once you open it and you're going to have to do something, you don't have time to do it. So why open it right now? I know it's adrenaline. I know it's good TV. It's your dream come true, but fucking pocket it, go take a shit or go back to camp for a while, then go back out and do it. Now, you can't read them as easily at nighttime. It's not as easy to find things at nighttime.
Yeah.
This might be one of the symptoms of a quicker season. I think if you had the 39 days, you had a longer season, you had 3 days to hang out,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you do pocket it, shove it in the crotch and walk back and keep it hidden,
Yeah.
right? Keep it secret, keep it safe. But I don't think you can necessarily bank on that as much as you used to be able to, because you could be going to travel tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Um,
And
but
I do think this first tribal was on day 3. So I mean, you presumably have at least till day 3 to,
mm,
read your clue, do whatever tasks you have to do. But also in the back of your mind, you have to know that most of this, I mean, outside of like Sabaya's candle melting one,
yeah,
most of these have been set up for you to be able to do in the crunch time of a challenge and tribal council. Like it is
yeah,
probably not going to take you that long. And if you happen to be on a winning tribe, that gets you even more time. So
yeah.
can we just pump the brakes on
I,
having this immediately?
Listen, I think you have a good point. I think we both agree in principle that opening it up right on the spot, if you've been out there a while, now if you
Yeah.
just got out there and you found it, fuck it, open it. You got
Yeah.
time. Like, you just walked out and you see it, like, you just, like, within 2 minutes. But if you've been out grabbing wood for 10 minutes and then you find it, you're already running out of time,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Listen, I've never been out there. I'm talking like somebody who's been out there. But my assumption would be you're running out of time, or you have to have people with you. In both cases, you shouldn't be reading it right now,
Yeah.
right? But the big asterisk on that is you must read it by the morning. I don't think you can go till tomorrow afternoon, because what if you have to do something at the next challenge?
Right. And well,
What
and
if
I
you
mean,
have to do something at low tide,
yeah, I
right?
mean,
Like,
I
what
think
if,
it's definitely a thing of like when you're pulled for a confessional, when you go
yeah,
to take a poo or a pee. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of time to
yeah.
read the parchment. I don't know, just a thought.
Honestly,
Um,
I think you nailed it, Kylie, by accident there or on purpose, because you could social engineer or production engineer your own break. If
mhm.
you pocket it and you go back to camp and say, I need to take this back until I have time to read it,
Yeah,
they're
they're gonna
gonna
pull you.
they're gonna want to pull you for a confessional, right?
Yeah,
Because they're gonna want to get that content. You have great light, it's daytime, whatever it is, they're
yeah,
gonna want to pull you for that.
yeah,
And maybe, like, boom, you got it. And then, yeah, I mean, any opportunity you can do it where it's acceptable to not be present
yeah.
for a little bit.
That's when you need to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see Gabe. He finds his. He pockets it. He reads it.
Mm,
That chooses not to share it with TK, which I'm a fan of. So he is able to quickly locate the box on the trail. and gets the second parchment that says, okay, you got to find a key to open this box. This is where it is located. He immediately knows what to do. He runs to that cliff wall. It's like, oh, wow, we've been here before. Definitely recognize this from last year in Tiffany's idol. And so he finds the vines that he's having to pull down. In the process of pulling down the vines, TK walks up.
Yep.
I personally liked how Gabe tried to play this off of like,
very creative.
I found this key up here.
Yep.
But TK doesn't buy it.
No. But you know what though? TK, they both played each other perfectly. Yeah. I think they both think each other believe them, but TK's the one who's ahead. He has the knowledge and he has the deception, and now he's got the information, right? And yeah, I think it was played really well by TK. But again, TK was just helping you grab wood.
Yeah.
Like, how long did you think he was walking around the corner for?
Right. And, maybe it's one of those things, like, if you get caught, you have to kind of have already played this out in your mind of like, okay, if I get caught, this is what I'm going to do. So I think the moment you see TK, you have to be like, come on, come here. I found this key up here. And you almost have to invite him in, as opposed to him being like, what are you doing? And as soon as that happens, you've lost him. He knows that you don't trust him. And this is going to be an uphill climb trying to repair this relationship.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is I think CBS nailed these challenges, or these I guess challenges to get your vote back, in the way that they're asking them to do tasks that are beyond what you'd be able to justify. So digging a hole in the middle of the path, that's hard to justify. Climbing or pulling vines down, unless you guys are building some swing set, like ripping vines down away from all the firewood, that's hard to justify if someone walks up and just sees you ripping giant vines down. Smashing a driftwood on the beach, just smashing giant logs, like that, climbing giant rock faces, those are hard to justify. They're basically making people choose, like, listen, beware, you're gonna look like an ass. You're gonna
have to explain something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So TK catches him. He decides, okay, I'm going to have to just pocket this key for right now, and I'll come back to it later. We don't get a bow tied up with what he explains to TK. But later we do see him go back to the box. He unlocks it, and lo and behold, you don't have the idol. Well, you do. It's a one tribal idol. But if you're willing to risk it, you can get an idol for 3 tribals. And so Gabe is like, yep, I definitely want to do that. Let me stuff this little 1 tribal idol into the hole, and I'm going to try to find the 3 tribal. But in this process, Gabe completely pooches this also, and he climbs up the big rock face, decides to hide the box, and it tumbles. I was like, he is going to get it open because he's going to break the whole box.
Yeah, when you saw the original size of the box, and you know that you're playing Survivor, you had to guess there would be another level. Like, you might not know, is it 2 more levels, 1 more level, 3, like whatever.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be another twist, because that was way too easy to get an idol, right? Yeah. But he digs the whole box up, takes it with him, opens it in secret, and then is like, oh shit, now what do I do with this box? And his solution, instead of digging in the soft ground right at his feet, is to climb up a rock face and try to hide on an incline and try to hide the box. And worst of all is failing to do it.
Yeah, and it tumbles, and they're like, what is he doing up on the rocks? What fell? Did he fall? Did he drop something? Raises suspicion for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is something that
is going to play out in the future. Like, we're not getting it all in this premiere episode, but I think
they heard it
raised everybody's weariness of Gabe to like 100.
Yeah, and remember, he's dealing a lot with Sue in this episode, and Sue's extremely smart. She's wily, and she's not going to fall for any shenanigans.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be a really interesting dynamic moving forward to see, will he just, tell her some things when he thinks that he screwed up, so that way it's like, hey, I brought you in, or is he actually going to tell her everything? Yeah.
And so, I mean, to what you're saying, we later see him tell Sue, like, hey, I am feeling really good about you. I found this beware advantage. I need you to look out while I unlock it. He unlocks it. He has the idol for 3 tribals, but if he will do it one more time, he can get an idol that is good until the final 5. My husband, super casual viewer, is like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "That's what an idol typically is." And he's like, "Oh, I thought it said he was good till the final 5." I was like,
Yeah.
damn, you might as well write him the check.
Yes. If that was the case, I would tell Sue right there, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, "You got my vote for Final 5 if you help me get this. Like,
Yeah.
I will help you get there."
I loved it. It was so funny. So he decides, I'm just going to take this. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to take this one that's good for 3 travels.
Yeah.
I kind of like this decision.
I think it's the only right decision based on how he's been playing so far.
Well, I mean, besides how he has done getting the Beware advantage, I'm like, especially coming off of the season that we just saw and that they got to see, about half of, where you saw these multiple people voted out with an idol in your pocket. If you have something with an expiration date, a near expiration date, the pressure's kind of off of you a little bit of like, I don't have to hang on to this thing that can get me to the end of the game and almost win $1 million. Like, it's not even going to get me to Mergatory.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how the perception is so different? When you
Mhm.
put an expiration date on it, suddenly, it's not as scary to use it right now. Whereas if you have no expiration date on it, you're almost afraid to keep yourself safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So
that's
I
yeah.
think I like this decision.
I do. And honestly, I believe it's written 3 tribal councils.
Yeah.
Not just the first 3 of the season, but like
Yeah. And that is curious. Is it the first 3 he attends, or is it the first 3 in total? Like, is he that now down to 2, or is it the first 3 he attends? I would assume it's the first 3 he attends.
I agree, which is like, let's say he took the first one. He wouldn't just not have an idol now because he didn't get to go.
Yeah.
Right. The assumption is he still has one because he hasn't gone to that one tribal yet. So
Yeah.
now that one is 3. So based on his tribe, right? Based on his tribe,
Yeah.
he might only go once pre-mergatory, right? Like
Yeah. I mean, it could almost be good to get him to like the top 8, like.
Yeah.
And if you found one, you could always find another.
Yes.
So Gabe, that's Gabe. On the other tribe, we see our boy Rome find it. And Rome is sketching people out because he is what we were a little bit worried about with Rome. He is playing very hard, very fast, and he is excited to be there. And I'm excited for him.
No, absolutely. And during the cast assessment, one of the things that I actually mentioned was he just started watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so he hasn't steeped in this for the last 20 years and really absorbed what not to do. Like, yeah, you binge watched it and you've watched it, but you haven't sat there for months and thinking about it. You haven't podcasted for years, but you haven't been doing all these like what to do, what not to do conversations for years and years and years. So he goes out there and he's like, listen, the people who make flashy moves have tools. I need tools because I'm a flashy guy. I'm going to go crush this. Yeah. And he just goes full tilt until he finds what he wants to find. And to his credit, he finds it.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit worried. I brought it up in our cast assessment where that maybe he could be like a JD. And I very much saw that tonight. I mean, I got JD.
Yeah. And without saying too many spoilers, you do see a clip at one point in this episode where someone actually says, Rome is a lot.
Yeah.
Rome is a lot.
Yeah.
And you know what, though? That might be horrible for one person and it might be the warm blanket to somebody else.
Yeah. And so that's interesting because, we talked about it a second ago where you were like, what do you think? Like, do you tell people about the advantage or not? And in some ways, if you're kind of on the outs of your tribe a little bit, just socially, which I don't know if Rome is aware yet that people are sketched out by him, does it play to your advantage a little bit if they're like, shit, he may have the idol. We can't go for him. We have to go for somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. And we see a little bit of that kind of paranoia in this episode, right? Not that exact scenario, but that type of deal where there might be an obvious vote and there might be something that you should definitely do. And everybody watching at home is like, yeah, you can't trust that guy. He's out searching for idols. He's out searching for advantages. Now's your chance. Keep yourself safe. Keep your allies close. Send your enemies.
So, like, if they were to lose and they go to tribal council and they're like, oh, we're really worried that Rome has the idol, like, let's let this other person that's on the outs throw their vote on Rome in case he does play the idol, and we're going to throw all of our votes onto him. And hopefully he just goes home. He voted for Rome. Rome burns his idol, best case scenario. Okay, but back to Rome's search. So we see Rome where he is like searching. Everybody's suspicious of him. And I'm probably mixing them up now. He gets the clue of, you have got to pour water onto the driftwood to figure out where yours is. And so Asia catches him in the act pouring water onto different logs.
Like I said earlier,
you can't explain this.
Like I said, they're giving them the perfect tasks to be indefensible. Like there's no lie you can come up. I was trying to clean the sand off of this driftwood so we could burn better. Like, what are you gonna say? Like, it's wet now. Like, you're fucked.
Yeah. And so, but Rome finds the right driftwood. It reveals your key is at the bottom of the well. Okay. This was so comical to me. So we see Rome and he makes a comment of like, I'm so sorry that I'm doing this to everybody's water. Before we go any further, do you think they are going to replace their water supply?
100%.
Okay.
They were just covered in mud and everything. I mean, okay, so they washed in the ocean. So they're definitely clean with all that ocean water and like 100% they gotta change that at night.
Yes. And so Rome is like, well, gotta dive in because I gotta get this thing. And Rome is just big enough to get the key, but not big enough to not make it look like a cartoon. And so Rome has to literally, half of his body is inside of the whale. All you see are his legs sticking up. I wanted them to come at that moment because what the fuck do you say?
Again, indefensible. Like, there's no way you can defend that. Yeah. I dropped my keys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my car keys are in the well. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I dropped the ladle. What?
Yeah.
I mean,
but what a hell of a memory, right? Imagine you get on Survivor.
This is by far my favorite Beware Advantage.
Oh my God. Like for the rest of this guy's life, he's going to remember the time he was on Survivor, had to jump in the water well and swim to the bottom, is what it's feeling like. Your head, and just imagine how dark that probably was too, right?
Yeah, no light.
There's so you're just in the dark.
You don't know how deep it is.
Just feeling around, holding your breath upside down, hoping I better be able to get myself out of this friggin' thing. And you're upside down in the barrel, and you're hoping production will save me.
Production will save me. Drowning in the whale.
Exactly.
And so funny. So he goes topsy-turvy into the well. He pulls it out, but when he gets out, like his shoulders, his head, everything is drenched. And here comes the group looking for him. And Rome has to split and not talk to y'all because he is dripping water. He's dripping water.
Yeah. Do you think production expected him to scoop? So scoop it out,
the ladle in and try to scoop it out.
Yeah, no, he pulled a big rock out first, and part of me feels like the key was under the rock at the bottom, so that way people couldn't see it in the water.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because he actually threw a big rock out, then he went back in and pulled the key out. But still, like, part of me wonders, did production think he was actually going to dive in?
I don't know.
To the well.
Phenomenal television.
They must have loved it though, because that's a great shot.
Yeah, they were probably dying laughing. My favorite moment of the episode by far. This was great. And there were some really great moments, but this one was really, really funny to me. And that is kind of where we have Rome left off with his Beware Advantage, right? We didn't go any further with his.
Yeah, he ducked out.
Yeah. And so we'll have to episode 2 to be continued. Yes. Anything else about the Beware Advantages?
No, honestly, my gut is telling me that Andy, my gut is telling me that Andy has the clue.
Yeah.
For the Yellow Tribe. It would explain a lot if he had that clue and if some people knew he had that clue.
Yeah.
But anyways, I I wouldn't be surprised if in the second episode we find that out. Oh, I mean, I'm just guessing, but I mean,
Yeah.
it would fill in a lot of holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the devil, Andy's epic meltdown. Let's talk about it. So they get to the immunity challenge. Jeff says 2 of the worst performances he's ever seen in 47 seasons. The blue tribe capsizes their boat. The yellow tribe capsizes their boat. Not surprising that yellow has capsized. Super shocking that blue did.
Yeah, I think this is one of those challenges where it was designed perfectly. If most of the people get out and help lift the big heavy weight onto the boat, and then they get back on, but for whatever reason, one guy or 1 or 2 people maybe were getting out, and you had 4 people still sitting in the boat, all leaning back, trying to get out of the way for this giant crate to come on to the boat, and they just kept tipping and sinking. And I think it was as simple as if everybody got out and worked as a team. It's like a Saw, right? The Saw movies. If you just worked as a team, you would have been fine. But instead, now you're all drowning, right? Like that's
so the red tribe, they just blow them out of the water, like easily win this. Blue and yellow are kind of even once they get to the beach, but blue just sheer force has way more power than the yellow tribe.
Yeah, and speaking of sheer power, I know we're going to skim over it because they dominated, but Saul, like Saul,
of course,
unreal, carried his team the entire time in that challenge. Unreal,
phenomenal job by Saul.
Yes. I don't know who drafted him, by the way. I seem to forget. Can you confirm? Actually, I think I might have drafted him. Actually, yeah.
Couldn't tell you. So red blows it out of the water. Then we see the blue tribe pretty handily take the lead over yellow because they are just stronger, and so they get the boat and the chest pulled up quicker. They are obviously in the lead on the puzzle, and we see Andy go off to the side and just completely collapse. I initially was like, okay, he's having a meltdown. I don't think this is medical. What is
100% agree. 100% agree. I think after we saw his mini meltdown where he was at camp and woke up in the middle of the night and then was like, "Oh, I'm gonna pull a. I'm having a hard sleep. I need a support, a support person to come help me." And Rachel's like, "No, fuck this shit. I'm going back to bed. Like you're fine." And he wasn't having like a panic attack or anything. People do have issues sometimes at night sleeping.
We
People
saw
do
Ben last season where he is waking up in the middle of the night.
Literally perfect example of somebody with a legitimate reason to need someone to talk to. And that's 100% okay. And that's totally different. That's the mirror, the reverse of what we saw here from Andy, where Andy was like, I thought I was a different person. I thought I was a different person at home. And I'm getting nervous because I'm not playing the way I thought I'd play. Dude, everybody is nervous.
Yeah.
Everybody. And you're going to think about it at night when you're sleeping by yourself. That's what you're going to think about. You can't wake people up just to say you're nervous to play the game. That's not okay. And then so you get to the end of this challenge and you see him lay down. And even the way he laid down, it wasn't like I'm going to pass out and then drop. You know what I mean? Like we've seen in the past a lot of times. He calmly walked off.
I know I'm screwed. I'm going to go off to the side and have a little temper tantrum.
Yeah, it felt like a Hollywood only child scenario. It felt like this needs to be about me right now. Even though the challenge isn't over, I'm going to lay down and I'm going to spread my arms out like this and just lay there.
Maybe my second favorite moment of the episode is Jeff goes over and he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to get voted out." And Jeff is like, "Okay, fine." I can't remember his exact words. Like, okay then.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And one of the things that I wrote down in my notes was that Jeff was fighting for his life to save this episode in those moments.
Yeah.
He was like, let's pull in medical. Let's give it. Just stalling, basically. Like, yeah, you have to do it because what if that 1% chance there's actually something wrong? Definitely call him medical, whatever, right? At one point, they pull him into the woods because we see him coming out of the woods later on back to his team. But like Jeff was trying to tell the guy, like, listen, you're not out. We're not pulling you. And he's like, oh, but they're voting me out anyway. I'm screwed anyway. And
No.
I think he was hoping to be medevaced instead of getting voted out. So he
Yeah.
played the, what if I just lay down and then they'll
Die.
medevac me for my security, right?
Yeah.
Or my safety. And Jeff's like, no. And then on top of that, I wrote down, as jotting little notes as we're watching, right? Little reminders to myself. I wrote the word soft just because I was like, what I was watching was somebody who just couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Now, like I said, there are people who legitimately need help in these challenges, and he
Yeah.
was making them all look bad. Because
Right.
now next season or next time someone drops, you're going to be questioning, oh, is this legit or is this another Andy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
there's
even like to come to Brandon Donlan's defense, who we
Mhm.
saw kind of have a similar meltdown a little bit in the first episode. Like Brandon Donlan legitimately, I think, was having a panic attack where
yeah.
he couldn't feel his limbs. Like he was like,
It's
I
totally
don't know why
different.
they're not working.
Yes, it's
He
totally
wasn't like
different.
help medical, but Andy's was a temper tantrum, just
That's
plain and
one.
simple,
It's
calling a spade.
100% a temper tantrum, and that doesn't mean that he also doesn't. Maybe he does suffer from mental health issues or whatever else he's dealing with in
Right.
his real life. That could also be true. That's not what I think we're seeing here. But again, we're not doctors. We're just people who like watching this
Yeah.
show. It's a passion of ours. But from what we were watching, and when he finally gets Andy back up on the mat with his crew, Jeff walks over and says to everybody, "If you want to play a soft show, play somewhere else.
Yeah.
This is Survivor."
Yeah. No. And I mean, I think after what had happened, the 2 seasons prior when Jeff saw a lot of these soft people and we got hard Jeff back, Jeff was like,
Yeah.
no, like this was
Yeah.
not, a beast mode cowboy emergency. This
No.
was, I'm sure he did probably get a little overheated because you're on Survivor, you're not eating, you're not drinking, it is
Yeah.
hot, and it
Boo.
was obviously a lot of exertion, but
Yeah.
this wasn't a medical emergency.
Yeah. No, and again, I say boo-hoo half sarcastically, and there's probably people out there saying, "Well, you probably couldn't do any better." It's like, well, I hope I get the chance someday, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll be proven right, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows? But anyways, no, like I have a feeling Jeff gave him a talking to in the woods, and like after the official clips were taken of all the things that they had to say, that he said, "Get on your feet. You are on my show right now.
Get the F
There
out.
are tens of thousands of people begging to be here, and you are here right now laying on the grass crying that you might get votes." There are
Yeah.
people who would sacrifice a limb to get voted out first,
Yeah, because
like just to be there.
he's like,
And like,
no, they're gonna vote me out. They don't like me.
yeah,
And so once he's
tough
back
shit.
up,
Go stand on the
yeah,
mat and take your lumps, right? I
once
feel like that's where Jeff is right now.
once
Like,
he's
that's where
back
he is.
up, Jeff says like, "Hey, Andy, like, what was that?" And like the comments that you were making were kind of strange. And Andy is like, "Yeah, Jeff, and Jeff has not sent the winners out yet. Okay."
Yes. Yeah.
And also, let me say this: when he's coming back to his tribe, the blue tribe and the red tribe are like, "Oh, thank God he's okay!" Like, "Woo, Andy!" And his tribe is like, "You should have died in them woods."
Well, they were probably hoping he was getting medevac and they'd all be safe because they knew
Yeah.
right in that moment they're going to tribal
Yeah,
council the
they're like,
second
"Great,
he walked back.
bye, Andy.
Yep.
We will sacrifice you to the Fijian wood gods."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, Andy, walk me through this moment. What's going through your mind? And Andy is like, well, Jeff, they don't like me. They don't cheer when I open coconuts. They cheer when John opens coconuts. They hate me. They don't like my face. They don't want to be friends with me. And yep, they suck. And so I am sitting, I know that we're going to lose. Like everybody knew we were going to lose. And so I'm sitting here thinking about how I'm going to fight tooth and nail. And John, that's my best friend. I'm going to throw him under the bus. But, I know I shouldn't do that. I'm like, sir, you already did. You already did.
Yep. Yep. And I was of two minds when
Look,
he was
John
saying
Lovett,
that
I
speech.
hope that you erase Andy's number from your phone.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, I was of two minds with that. When he first said the first half of his speech where he said, They didn't cheer for me opening coconuts. They don't like me. They don't want, like, they just don't like me. I'm not included. For half a second, I actually felt bad for him because I thought, listen, like, as ludicrous as the response is, I think the emotion is real. As ludicrous as his reaction and how he's dealing with it, as crazy as that is, the emotions were real. He does feel like an outcast. He does feel alone. He feels abandoned by his tribe and never given a chance. And for anybody who's been in that position, feel awkward in high school or awkward on the sports team or awkward wherever, that's a really shitty feeling. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he says, but Jeff, I'm a strategist. And I said, so then he pulled me out of the empathy mode immediately. He said, but Jeff, I'm a strategist, is what he said. And he goes, while I was laying there, I was thinking about my good friend John, and I was going to throw him under the bus to stay here because I want to be in this game. And I was like, oh, now I'm back to apathy, right?
Yeah.
You pull me out of the empathy, back to the apathy. And I'm just thinking, like, man, I don't know where they found this guy, but he's making the worst and yet the best television at the same time.
Like, I personally did not despise Banu like so many people did last season, because maybe it's like the Big Brother fan in me. I don't need every single person to be a game bot. I really, really enjoy characters. Obviously, they are not playing characters, they are themselves. And so for me, I am down with some good television of like, what the fuck is happening? And that I was like, jaw dropped. What is this man doing?
Yeah, Banu, honestly, great callback on that when it comes to the similarities in the odd confessional and the difficulty in keeping what you're thinking inside and realizing the perception that you're trying to convey or get other people to have of you. Yeah, that's a perfect callback on that. But yeah, I mean, I was ready for him to go right at that point.
Yeah, I would have been like, Jeff, we do not need tribal council. Let's do it right now. Because if you have a man that is sitting there on day 3 that has gone and laid down in the middle of your challenge that you all completed, you all did that. And he went and laid down in this, and then he confesses that he is basically willing to do anything, including throwing his closest ally under the bus. I would not touch you with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, if I was everybody but John, I mean, I probably wouldn't have played it much different because now you still have that.
Yeah.
Right. But if I was John, like for future reference, for somebody who gets their name thrown out there, but then the person says like they're the obvious vote, no one likes them, they're definitely going, yada, yada, yada. I would almost push that button, and if you could get it in there politely and be like, Andy, it seems like you're a good guy, but you're ready. You think this is your time and you're ready to go. And if that's the case, I don't think there's much more to talk about. If that's how you feel, I'll respect your wishes because the rest of us want to be here. I know I want to be here. The rest of us want to be here. Do you want to be here as much as us? And give him the opportunity to bury himself.
Are you going to quit on us? Like throw it back on him. I agree.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else to add on Andy's meltdown? Because we're going to continue talking about it a little bit.
The only last thing I'll put in there is that because of how crazy this episode went, I think the editors gave us the biggest clue ever when they were introducing the reward. Was it the reward for this challenge as well? Yes. They said the losers go to tribal. Yes, exactly. Okay. They actually said first place gets this, second place gets this, third place, otherwise known as the losers. And they showed 3 consecutive cuts of the yellow tribe. It went close up of the yellow tribe as a whole. Then it showed a extreme close up of John's face, and then back to the yellow tribe and nobody else as they're talking about the losers. It was like yellow.
I did not notice that.
Yellow. I went back 30 seconds and I watched it again because I was like, wait a minute, did they just ignore everybody else? Show the yellow, zoom in on John when they said losers, and then zoom back out?
I'll have to look at it.
I was
But
like,
this
wow,
this
they're
was
losing this challenge.
this was the type of performance I was expecting from Yellow. This tracks another Yellow tribe that struggles. All right.
Yep.
Fourth point, Pod save John. So once they get back to the beach, Andy is like, you know what? I'm going to sit you all down and I'm going to tell you what I was thinking in that moment. I'm 80% recovered. And, this just the way I've been feeling, it's taken me back. And I do not want to downplay like a person's struggles. Okay.
Mhm.
With
Yep.
that said, I don't think there is anybody that has not felt that same way. I mean, I know personally, like 4 months ago, I felt that way. You know what I mean? Like everybody has had moments where they've been like, okay, I don't think I'm a priority to this person, or I am feeling excluded. No matter who you are, where you came from, I think that is an experience most people can relate to.
Oh, it's part of the human condition for
Right.
sure. It's a natural experience we all go through.
Right.
And even if it's just perceived and nobody else sees it, but that's our perception,
Yeah.
we can all absolutely relate. And I think the issue with this is when you're on Survivor, you're supposed to give those confessionals during your confessionals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even maybe you do find that one person, and if Andy feels like Rachel could have been one of those people, if like, hey Rachel, I feel like I really connect with you. I'm not feeling the same with the rest of the tribe. How do you think I can adapt? Like be vulnerable with one person when you're having that conversation. Don't drag them down with you.
Yeah.
In any type of way, but like, what do you think I need to do differently to better connect? Because then that gives somebody a moment like what we saw with Caleb and Emily, where Caleb was like, hey, this is how you can get in better with the rest of the people. And Caleb pulled Emily up with him. And Rachel is like, don't hitch your wagon to me, son.
Honestly, I think the person who dropped the ball the second most, Andy's by far the first in this episode when it comes to his behavior, is Rachel.
Yeah.
Like, again, don't push somebody away who's asking for support. Support them. Make them believe you care in this. Just be there and listen. One, you might actually be helping someone. You might think they don't need your help, but maybe they actually do. And you were a friend there in that moment, and that might save them. On the other hand, you can go to a confessional and say, holy shit, this guy woke me up in the middle of the night. Now I'm exhausted and I'm hungry and people think I'm working with this guy, whatever. But if he has a twist up his sleeve, right, an ace up his sleeve, it's not coming at you.
Right. And, when this was happening, which I'm definitely not going to get into any specifics, but, we have all played these online reality games. And I was like, I can put myself in this position where I have had someone that was clearly on the outs of our tribe that kind of was drawn to me. And I tried to make them feel as good as I could without them pulling me down with them. And so some of it is just maybe people haven't been put in that circumstance before. I don't know. I do think Rachel missed it a little bit. And we'll talk more specifically about the players in a minute. But how do you feel John handled the call out?
I think when he got back to camp, I think he handled it great when they arrived. And then the paranoia really set in.
Yeah.
And you're hungry. You haven't really slept well in 3 days. Plus, you flew all the way to Fiji. You've gone through all the casting. Like for us, we're saying, oh, it's day 3, but it's not really. It's more like day 18, right? Like they've been going all over, casting and everything, flying all over, quarantining. Maybe still if they do that, I don't know if they still do that, but they're still sitting over there on the island, going through orientation, all that stuff. Get on the island. They finally do everything. It's real, and then your name is thrown out there before you even get back to camp for first tribal. That would weigh on you. And what he should have done is never left the side of the decision makers.
Right.
Just always been
the majority. That is the thing. You don't need to repair your relationship with Andy. Like if they want to individually break off and tell Andy it's going to be you, let them. but you
Yeah.
stick with at least 2 people. Like, don't let anything else gain traction, especially when his gut instinct was, this doesn't seem quite right. Like, this isn't kosher. Something else is happening. Don't let them. Don't let
Yeah.
them. And I think that's the only thing he could have done differently, because I almost feel like this was an opportunistic vote out where they're like, you know what? Andy's, we can deal with him.
Yeah. It's not like they used Andy as a smoke shield to get out some big threat.
Mm-hmm.
I would respect that. If they're like, okay, we're gonna keep Andy around, but you know what? We have Sam over here who is jacked. We're not going for strength this season. We're going for loyalty. He doesn't talk to me. Everyone is thinking we're going Andy. We're gonna get Sam out tonight. We think he might even have an idol. He's not gonna play it tonight because
Yeah.
Andy's such an obvious vote. It felt like an interesting play to keep somebody who is mentally weak to get rid of somebody who's physically weak.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll be a theme for this tribe this season. But when you have John going after the leader
Mm-hmm.
of the tribe, you can't go after Annika.
Yeah.
Like she's been dominating the social game. She was barking orders and people still loved her. If you can be barking orders at people saying, build this here, tie this here, we need more bamboo, we need this, and even at tribal council, they're all saying, like, respectfully,
Yeah.
that Annika took charge and has been leading us, and respectfully, like, they're okay with that. It's not like a Bruce, where they're all like, oh my God, like this is just too much
Yeah.
now. Like, no, they respect, and that's the person you try to get votes for, like, against them.
Yeah.
You're not going to win.
Yeah.
You're not going to win.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like John made some mistakes, but as a whole, I think for 4 of the, well, there's 6 people left. Obviously, wasn't good for John, and we're going to take Andy out of this equation. For 3 of the 4, I think it was the right decision to keep Andy, because Andy is brute strength, and we're behind already, and we may not be able to lose that. And so for, I think, Sam, Annika, and Sierra, this was the right decision. For Rachel, who Andy has like pegged you for your other person, you needed to get him the F out of here immediately.
Yeah, I'm curious how close Rachel's getting with Annika.
Only bad for her.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said I'm really curious to see how close Annika is with Rachel, and throwing compliments out and supporting them and everything in Final Tribal is a great way to kind of show that you support somebody.
Yeah.
And Sierra was in on that at Final Tribal as well, and I'm curious to see what happens there. And I don't know. I mean, I think it was a smart move for everybody but Andy. Basically, like, Andy wants to stay, but you're still screwed. Like, everything he did was setting himself up to go next. But again, this format of a show is designed to subvert expectations.
And then one other thing about this vote, I don't know why someone didn't say, Andy, there is a good chance you're going to catch some votes. You should probably play your shot in the dark.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yep.
Okay. Curious.
Yeah.
Curious.
No, I honestly, that's something that I'm curious why they didn't. Again, I kind of feel like he has the beware advantage, and I think they just assumed he was going to play something.
Yeah.
I really, really do.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little more reasoning as to why John was the obvious vote. But he voted for Annika.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting. I mean, going into it, I was like, this is a smokescreen. They're voting out Andy.
We only saw 5 votes though, right? Now I think about it, wasn't it Annika and then
it was
1, 2,
Annika,
3, 4?
John. So
it's possible Andy never voted.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
We would have to see it. I would have had to have watched it when they showed it at the end. I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a good point. Actually, I jumped right on here.
No, actually, I am lying. I did see it. Andy did vote.
Did he vote? Okay, yes. That's good. I would have liked if they didn't show. Like, that's a little bit of a teaser, right? Because like, when you don't see all the votes, it's nice to know, well, did someone miss it? Is it because they had the beware but didn't get it yet? Things like that.
So, I mean, that's kind of our first episode. So we lose a very, very big name in the world, and we're left with Andy, who I'm sorry, but if this happened on day 3, I think you're safe to bet it's going to happen again.
Oh, absolutely. No,
I can't
he's
wait. I can't
yeah.
wait. I don't know whose detriment it's going to be to, but I'm here for it. I can't wait till it happens.
Yeah, I almost hope there's like a 1-for-1 tribe swap where like, one person gets swapped on each tribe, and Andy just spread the chaos.
Yeah.
All over.
Let it infect others.
It would be beautiful. Yep.
But I'm excited. I'm always excited for the season and what it can bring. Real quick, because we went a little longer than we were expecting to. Let's talk about first impressions. So, we don't have to go through like one by one. We saw a lot of people not get a whole lot. I feel like we've kind of talked about TK. We talked about Asia quite a bit. We did not. So Tiana was someone I'm very high on preseason. We got very, very little from Tiana.
Yeah, she called Gabe out for being missing a few times, and that was not a rock falling, or that's not what
Yeah.
So she's definitely playing the game for sure.
Yeah.
The one that I was really interested in the one that I thought was interesting that we didn't see was Kyle.
Yeah, we didn't. And some of that, which look, we have seen a new era winner get basically no pre-merge content. So
well, and that's what I'm leaning towards. Like he was my winner pick, so I'm gonna throw that out there. I was happy to get none of him in this episode. It was fantastic.
Okay. TK, Tiana, Sue, I think she kind of gave me everything I was expecting and wanting. People are drawn to her, even the people we weren't necessarily expecting to be, like Gabe.
Exceeded expectations by far.
Yeah. Kyle, he seems like he's very athletic. Seems like he's well liked, easygoing. That's what we were kind of expecting. Gabe got a lot of screen time with the Beware advantage. Caroline, I have almost no recollection of her in the episode.
Yeah, she said that she'd work with Sue at one point, but Sue called her Saraline.
Oh, did she?
So I'm not sure if I'm not.
Great.
Anyways, and that maybe I just heard that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was pronounced. And so I was like, have I been saying Caroline wrong my whole life? I don't think so, but yeah.
Teeny. So we didn't talk a whole lot about Teeny outside of her little bit with Asia. How did you think her little joke of everybody rate my buff look? Because I feel like it fell really, really flat with them.
I think she is authentically herself, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think she just, like I said, youthful ignorance, focused on appearances and looks. First time she got to speak on the mat, it was about the clothes she was wearing. Second time she got to speak, it was about the clothes she was wearing and how she looks on TV. I get it. You're on TV. Maybe you're a little bit concerned about, appearances and things. That's fine, but it's too late to think about it once you're there. You should have thought about that when you're at home. But fun to watch, high energy, and definitely is going to make a play. I don't know if it's going to be the right play, but I can definitely see her pulling triggers.
Yeah. Saul, we got nothing from outside of his very, very commanding challenge performance.
Yeah, I wish I had more to say other than just absolute dominance in the challenge, but that's honestly all you can say from this episode.
Yeah. Rome, we talked about Keyshawn, nothing. So I do want to say about Keyshawn, though, I think I'm probably a little bit worried about him also, because I feel like when you had that group talking about how Rome is so sketchy, there was 4 people there. It was Teeny, Asia, Saul,
Genevieve.
and Genevieve. It was the 3 girls and Saul. And so I think that in the scenario they were to go to tribal, kind of what we talked about, where, okay, we think Rome has something. Sorry, Keyshawn, it's you. I'm worried for Keyshawn.
And when they had the chance to go on the boat, Asia was pointing like, do you want to go? Do you want to go? And people were like, well, and Keyshawn was like, no. Like immediately was like jumping back, like no, like terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genevieve, I don't really remember a whole lot from her, except she's very, very beautiful. That's what I have about her. Sierra, I thought she had a fine episode. Seems to be well liked by her tribe. Sam, I think he's in a very, very good position where he is the stability on his tribe for the men, because you just lost John and Andy's crazy. Like, you can just go ahead and mark Sam down for the merge.
Yes.
Because he's going to make it.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't know if it'll turn into like a men versus women type thing here. Like the women outnumber the men now. It's not uncommon to be like, listen, we have something in common and there's 3 of us. They have something in common. There's 2 of them. Let's us 3 women just agree. We won't vote for us. So if we have to go back, it's one of them. Anytime you're on the 2 out of 5.
Yeah. But I mean, fun. I feel like there is a very strong possibility if they go back, it is not, they cannot lose Sam, or they will be at every single tribal.
Yeah. Let's run with my assumption for 10 seconds. Let's say Andy does have the beware.
Mm-hmm.
Then who's next? If it's not Sam.
That is interesting. I mean, is it an Annika? Because we did see her where they were like, she's definitely super prepared, and they kind of highlighted that. Or is it maybe like a Rachel who, hey, she's attached to Andy, and whatever Andy touches is spoiled. So she's got to go.
I think Rachel's got to go hard against Andy. I think she has to get Andy out just to break that.
I want to come back to Rachel last.
Sure.
Annika, thoughts on her?
Fantastic episode. I think too aggressive, but pulled it off.
Yeah, I thought too aggressive.
Yeah, too aggressive, but somehow her delivery must just be right on that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now. Andy, nothing else to say. So Rachel is the one that I wanted to talk about because I thought she was the most interesting. Really, really interesting to me, because there were parts of her where I was like, wow, I really like her composure. I like where she was like, yeah, let's do that. But, we don't want to be, too attached to each other in her first conversation with Andy. I was like, okay, I really, really like her. And there was aspects of her that I picked up where I got like Kelly Kim vibes. And I was like, okay, I like this. But then there were aspects of her where I was like, I'm getting Ellie from Gabler season vibes. And I don't know. I don't know which side she's going to fall on.
Honestly, the last thing that I wrote, my last thought on the episode, I wrote down, and I'll quote, Rachel equals perfect amount heartless. Bad writing, but you get the point. I think she's the perfect amount of heartless for this game, but she has to be able to pretend that she's human, right? She can't just be the robot, because people won't want to work with a robot, because then that robot will turn on them.
And it is interesting in contrast to last season with Kinsey. Like, you have Kinsey and Ben, and then you have this situation with Rachel and Andy, and they're polar opposites. And we just saw Kinsey win. They didn't see Kinsey win, but we did. And so to see Rachel kind of handle it in the opposite direction, and I would probably be way more of a Rachel than a Kinsey, where I would probably just be like, they're there.
It has to pretend better, but no, I loved the entertainment, and I loved the character, and I believe Rachel's just straight up being herself, and it fits being on the island.
Rachel's really intriguing to me, and I'm excited to watch more of her.
Yeah, not passive at all.
When it comes, but she's the one that I'm like, what's going to happen with you? Because I've got my eyes on you in a good way.
Yes.
She was very, very compelling television for me.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see what she does. All right. Any other final thoughts about this first episode?
No, I'm happy it's back. I mean, honestly, anytime that you have a chance to watch and talk about Survivor, it's a good day. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, what a time to be alive. Like, tonight we have 2 hours of Survivor. an hour of Big Brother, which we've obviously missed. That's fine. And we
Yeah.
have an hour and a half of the challenge, which I'm going to catch both of those episodes, Big Brother and the challenge, tomorrow. But it's still all aired in one night. Like my three core television shows, they could cancel the rest of television, and if I still had those three shows, I would be happy. All in one night. What a time to be alive.
I can't agree more.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Like already the, next time on Survivor has I'm ready to see what Andy has up his sleeve that made Sam literally drop his jaw.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to see what happens and who ultimately comes out on top. I think we've got some really good contenders.
Yeah. So are we coming back next week on Thursday, or are we
Yes.
coming back again on Wednesday after the episode?
Thursday. So
Thursday.
next week we will be here Thursday. We're going to take our Big Brother coverage to just Mondays. Typically, that's going to be with Kevin and CJ in that 5 p.m. Pacific time slot. So if you are wanting the Big Brother coverage, catch Kevin and CJ on Mondays, and then we will be back next Thursday to talk about the second episode of Survivor. Make sure that you give us a like and a subscribe so that way you get a notification when we go live, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about the first episode, who you're rooting for, and just leave us your opinions on Andy. I'm
Awesome.
excited
Well
to see
said.
what happens with him. All right, y'all. We will see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.